Hi guys, welcome to the Break the Chain podcast. This is an interesting one today. I'm sat here with my ex-girlfriend and now good friend Tina Dickinson. This has been a long time coming, hasn't it, this podcast? I think the fact that you're sat here today is incredibly heroic, and you've come here to shed light on mental health issues. Having kind of seen behind the scenes into your life and the daily struggle that you've had to face, I'm surprised that you're still here, and
Yeah.
seriously, and it's absolutely amazing. And as I say, it's heroic that you are here and that you're here today. Um, Thank you for coming on the show. I was wondering if you could. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily always super helpful to obsess or fixate on labels of diagnoses, but just to give a bit of an idea of the things that you've had to face, would you mind telling the audience what your diagnoses have been?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reel them off. Okay, so I guess it's always been bipolar 2. So bipolar 2 is sort of the more depressive of the two different denominations of bipolar. Usually, I've got borderline personality disorder as well. So that kind of always gets grouped in with something or other. PTSD and anxiety, like chronic anxiety. So I get like some really good panic attacks and whatnot. I think probably for as long as I can really remember from childhood, but you get these diagnoses when you're a little bit older, and it's like, great, I've got labels now. What do I do? How do I get better? So that's what I've come to chat about, like how we get them and how that process is going, because I've wanted to do this for ages, and I've mentioned it to you loads of times. I've kind of tried to get into other projects as well, but it's one of those things that just kind of gets pushed back further and further because it's never the right time, right? So I'm really pleased that we're getting to address some things now.
It's amazing, isn't it? To anybody the first time I met you, first impressions are life and soul of the party, really funny, quite loud and boisterous, and just confident and just really fun. That was the impression that I would have got from first meeting you. An incredibly good first impression. What would you like to? I know we spoke a little bit earlier, and you mentioned that one of the things that you kind of wanted to touch on was what's really going on behind closed doors. Would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like we said, you can come across as pretty much anyone that you want, and you'll know from your experience with like using drugs to mask how you're actually feeling. It's never really what's actually going on. Like, to be honest, a lot of the time still I don't even know who I am. So that's what I'm trying to figure out still at the moment, is I'm trying to work out who I am and what my identity is. So you have to like excuse me as well, because with my anxiety I kind of A, go off on a tangent, and B, completely forget where we are. So I might need you to just catch me up a little bit every now and then. Were we talking about diagnoses?
I do that as well. So yeah,
okay, yeah, I've just remembered life and soul of the party and whatnot. So what's really going on behind the scenes? Okay. Yeah, even some of my closest friends, because of trying to talk about things in the past and trying to and actually showing who I am to people, a lot of the time there has been quite a lot of rejection with that. And with rejection, it just becomes more and more, you bury yourself. Like, you take a million steps back. You might make a little bit of progress, but the second that someone says to you, for instance, one of my girlfriends, one of my close friends a while back said, I think you're being really selfish. Like, why are you doing this? And I was making so much progress, And at that point, I was way back beyond sort of square one. I couldn't even see the line anymore. So you really don't ever know what's going on, because you're really good at lying as well when you've got these mental health problems, because a lot of the time, I can only speak from my point of view, obviously, and from my feelings. It's a bit shameful sometimes, I think. I feel completely embarrassed. I don't feel normal. Like, that's a huge thing. And I feel like there's probably no one else in the world ever, a lot of the time, that feels like this, when in reality, like the age that we live in now with social media and corona going on at the moment, I think we're all feeling it. We've all got a bit of mental health issues going on. So that's why we need to talk about it a bit more. That's why you're doing such a good job with Break the Chain. But I mean, more on kind of concealing that, I've always been in work. Like, I've always had jobs, whether I've kept them for a while or not, is a different thing. Not really been fired from too many jobs, but I've had to move on quite quickly because I've spiraled that quickly. And, you know, toward the end of certain jobs, I'd go to my day job in the office, and I'd sit there and I'd cry all day, and I wasn't keeping it anymore. And I mean, literally, I lost all this weight. I was gaunt. Most of the time I was high, and no one actually made that conversation with me. No one sort of broached it. There were meetings with managers and people that go, "Are you all right?" And I'd say, oh, I think I'm going off on a tangent here as well, but I'd say, like, I'm going through this big court process at the moment and whatnot. And they'd be like, "Okay, well, how can we support you? What can we do? Are you going to be okay?" And I'd just go, "Well, you can't. I'm on my own. Like, I'll get it sorted no matter what." And you could just hide it. Like, you can hide it to a certain degree, even when you're that obvious and you're just, I've got photos of those days because I wanted to remind myself, once I'd recovered, how bad it was, where I literally look dead. Like, I'm on a different planet completely. And all of these people around me could see it. So, you know, toward the end, it wasn't concealed. I say toward the end, I'm still ongoing, obviously. But you really never know what's going on. And everyone's got their own battles, no matter what. And I've got to say, like, for me, mine seem completely normal. All of my foibles, all are completely natural to me. It's all real life. It's all just every day, like, it's normal. But then I speak to, like, Carlo, my partner, and he shows me the progress that I've made, even just since I've met him. It's not normal. My life isn't normal, and it definitely needs to be spoken about a bit more, because I know a lot of people are facing their own battles. But to others, maybe this is nothing. Maybe all my shit's nothing. It's one of those things you can never tell what's going on, and we need to have the conversation more and be persistent in asking for that conversation.
I've seen both sides. You know, I've seen, like, the Tina show, as you've called it, where you're out and about, and then I've seen the reality of behind the closed doors, and where you've been pulling out your hair, your eyelashes, your eyebrows, and I've seen you literally hitting your head off the corner of a radiator, manic, like, in a way that's just like terrifying.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
where you can't even, you lose the ability to talk, to dress yourself, and people wouldn't see that behind the doors. And there was a few times where in public it kind of crept out, and I think that was actually after the incident where I was incredibly unconsiderate of your PTSD, was when it actually got really, really super bad. I'd love to try and talk about each aspect of these labels and how you think that, if you can kind of explain how they affect your life and try and give people a bit of an understanding of these things independently. I know I talk about anxiety quite a lot, but
yeah,
bipolar.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone understand bipolar.
absolutely. Like, it's a weird one for me as well. I think because I've got all of these labels, do you know, I don't know which one's which. And to me, like, it's all just me. Like, I can't differentiate between what's bipolar, what's borderline, what's PTSD. And I also can't remember when all of these different symptoms started. It literally is for as long as I can remember. Like, giving myself black eyes and stuff, and literally just losing control. I believe that's more probably inclined towards a PTSD, and maybe I've kind of self-diagnosed maybe a little bit of psychosis as well. But with the bipolar, that is where you have kind of these dangerous highs. And I say dangerous because for me, it's almost worse than the lower state of bipolar. So when I go on a high, and the teen show comes out, which to be honest doesn't happen very often anymore, that's kind of the old days. For now, what I do is I go spend loads of money. I spend money that I haven't got. I get really hyperactive and I laugh and I joke and I literally can't stop jumping. Like I'll literally be jumping in the air, physically running around. So, I mean, it sounds like it's not really a bad thing, but when you wake up like a few days later, however long that high has been running for, when it hits you and you snap out of it and your bank account's like low or negative, and you know when you go and have some drinks or you do whatever, drugs or whatever, and you have the come down, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I always hit the shame train. Like that feeling of overwhelming guilt. Fuck, what did I do? I've done something terrible. Like people are judging me. And sometimes even if I haven't done anything wrong, with the bipolar thing, after a high, that's exactly what it is. It's I can't face the world and I'll have to come off Facebook and Instagram for like weeks at a time because I feel like even if it's just like one story that I think I've shared that might have given some sort of insight into me being a nutcase, like I then completely close off and go back into my shell. So that's the high side of bipolar, and then the lower side is just it's the darkest depths of depression, like literally, and digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into that pit of self-doubt, self-sabotage. Probably my biggest thing is the amount that I just literally pull myself apart before finally sort of, you know, having to reach that really bad bottom place to be able to one day go, all right, you're the only one that can sort this out. Crack on, like, what are you going to do to make this better? So deepest, darkest depths of depression and the highest of highs, but not really a happy high. It's not like you're ecstatic. It's all just completely fake. Nothing's real. It's kind of like a drug fantasy, if you will, if that resonates with you at all.
I can relate on a very, very minor level, but you know, I've had times when I've kind of felt myself getting excited, and I'm talking, and then what I'm saying is not necessarily relevant to the reality around me, and I you know, and I start saying things that I don't necessarily just too much, you know, and then I've had it where people just been like, just calm down. And I'm like, what? And I feel great in a way. I'm just like, ah, and it's like, they're just like, just chill out. And it's like, oh. And I guess, I feel shameful that I'm being told to calm down. Like, I feel like it's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's when it kind of hits you. Like,
it's like, oh.
What am I doing? And I think I've got to say, like, yeah, I can imagine that you feel little bits of that here and there. I think I've probably seen bits of that in the past because I really don't believe that, you know, one person has this diagnosis, this diagnosis, this diagnosis. I think that everyone has a little bit of everything. Like I, for example, believe that I have quite a lot more of different mental illnesses, like on the scale of it all. But I really do believe that most people have a tiny bit of all traits, if you know what I mean. It's just how much you acknowledge it and how much control you have over it. But
I've certainly witnessed symptoms within myself of these different things become greater and lesser in my life, even though they're not on an extreme. My anxiety has been extreme, but the other things. But I've certainly experienced myself sliding up and down these spectrums at times. And I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything, but these labels are modern. They've only just, you know, the psychologists are, what they're really good at is thinking of new names for stuff. and yeah, sure, it labels it categorizes behavior, but it does. But it's certainly not something that you are, is it? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. Someone said something to me, one of my friends actually, a couple of years back, and I was at the time going, yeah, you're right. And he said, oh, everyone's anxious these days. It's anxiety this, anxiety that. And I do think the word gets thrown around a lot. as with like depression, oh, I'm totally depressed and everything. Well, are you? But it's this new age that we live in, like this social media age, this Netflix era, this like having everything here and now, and you've got to be talking to everybody on social media as well as socializing, as well as self-care, as well as like getting involved in it, like charity and matters that you believe in and things like that. It's you've got to be involved with everything all at once. So I'm not surprised that mental health like is becoming more of a thing, because it's getting a bit out of control, I think, and it's quite scary where the world is heading and how overwhelming it can get, feeling like you've got to be involved in all of these things. And I don't know about you, but I get this terrible guilt. I mean, guilt and shame are some of the things that I feel most days, no, every day, most of the day, like about something or other. But like for me, you know, like messenger conversations and WhatsApp, all these different apps, they're all going off in messages. For me, I barely can keep up with my day-to-day life without looking at my phone. I come off social media quite a lot because I can't handle it. I can't reply to messages. I can't even look at the messages, because then I'll reply and then they'll reply and then I've got to deal with it all over again. So I have this huge guilty feeling that I've got all of these messages racked up from even when I was pregnant, and I've not spoken to some of my family members, some of my closest friends in the whole world, because I just can't keep up. So it wouldn't surprise me that pretty much everyone is really struggling with that one as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
A few weeks back, you always feel like you're busy. You're always busy. You've always got something to do. You never have time. Now's never a good time. But if you just stop doing whatever you're doing, it will be fine. And I actually just went through, and it is hard to get these moments where you do take a pause and just put everything down for a moment. But I just went through and I just figured out as many times as you can. If you YouTube this, it'll give you some ideas how to make my phone annoy me less. How to stop my phone from buzzing as often as possible. I went through and I turned off certain types of emails. You know, Amazon was emailing me all the time. It was about 50 buzzes a day just from them. And I just went through and I just did as much as I can. Put apps into one folder, so instead of being loads of the red dots, God, they do your head in. Yeah. It's just like, leave me alone. So I put all them
reminders that you can't keep up with your life, basically.
Just I didn't get rid of it all, you know. I didn't go that extreme, although sometimes I'm sure that's called for. But for me, I just minimised it all. And I mean, obviously making your life as simple as, I mean, Facebook at the moment is sending me nuts. I don't even know if you're on it at the moment, but
I am.
They have just overdone it. And I suspect that everybody's feeling this irritation with it. It's just so many options. It's so complicated. And you know, I've got a sign. I have a sign in front of my face here. It says "Simple is beautiful," and I'm really trying to practice that in my own life, because with my anxiety, I have to do this.
I think the thing with the whole messaging thing as well is I always have the best intentions. Like I asked you to put me in touch with one of your friends because I wanted to really learn from her. And do you know what? I contacted her, sent her this big message. She got in touch as well. And then from that, I've not even replied again. And that's the same with everybody. So I start with these great intentions. I've been discussing doing this project with you for ages as well.
Yeah.
But actually just, everything gets very overwhelming. And then I kind of just switch off. Once things get overwhelming, and that's a lot, I just switch off and I do the bare minimum. I call it survival mode. Like literally just make sure that you have a shower, make sure that you eat, make sure you brush your teeth. I mean, now it's a bit different because I've got a 5-month-old baby. So survival mode is getting by to be there for him. I've got no choice anymore. Like I've got to sort this out. And it's never been a case that I've not wanted to sort it out and that I've not faced these things, because as you know, I've always been really open about my mental health. Up until recently, where I thought that I could be getting on people's tits with it a bit and didn't want to push my opinions on people. But yeah, it's now time, I think, to really figure out and discuss it so that I can figure out how other people have helped themselves and how I can help myself, because as you know, like it's your head, it's my head. Like no one else can change it. It's a task that only you can do. So as much as the different therapies that I've had, none of them have clicked with me, and I'm hoping that opening up the discussion will really just sort of help us bounce around some ideas and help each other out a bit and get each other through.
I have some thoughts on that, but first I would like to finish talking about these things, because this is something that is very real and scares the shit out of me, especially in not knowing how to deal with people and being so ignorant and insensitive. I don't know if I was insensitive, but I honestly didn't know, and I was so selfish because of my addiction. My addiction was just, I was basically anything that I had to do with drugs. I had to do it, and I was, not that I had to, but I had lost control of my life.
Yeah, you weren't there.
I was following whatever my habit was doing, basically, and obviously there was a rave on, and it was in a place, and you did not want to go there, and I was just like, I just couldn't understand how going to a place would be that bad, and I more or less forced you, not entirely, but if I went, you was coming with me,
and I thought I could do it as well. I mean, there were doubts, and I remember saying, like, I don't know if I can do this, but I wanted to push through and I wanted to face it. I think, well,
it didn't go well, did it?
It didn't go well. My PTSD comes from a couple of different places, but mainly two abusive relationships. So one when I was 15 to 16, well, 15 to 17, sorry, and one literally a couple of years ago over here in Australia. So at the time, obviously, this one was when I was really young, when I was 15, 16, and I was in this very, 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 very abusive relationship, and mainly psychologically abusive, but physical as well with this particular one. And we were going to this venue, weren't we? And it was in the same, I don't think I'd ever been to the actual venue. I hadn't. It was just the fact that we were going to that town in particular, where all those memories were of like being dragged around in the street and punched in the face and set fire to, sexually abused and all of these things. And I don't think we even got
just even. I mean, I know you told me a lot about it and showed me photos and stuff from that thing. Even just thinking about what you've told me now, I mean, I don't know if there's any need to go into the depth of how horrific it was, but it's torture. Basically, he was tortured.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I slept outside. I slept outside quite a lot of the time, and he had all of my friends beaten up, like literally put in hospital. All my friends. He stole everything from me. He'd ring my mum's house phone and he'd give her a load of abuse, and he'd tell me that my family didn't want me and that I couldn't do any better, and I'd be locked in a wardrobe and all sorts of things. Like it was hell. So going back to that town and having all of those memories just hit me. I guess what I'd know now is being triggered. I was completely triggered. And as you saw, I just completely lost control. So I think I don't have a huge memory of that particular night, because I just shut off. Like I'm gone, basically. But I couldn't talk. I couldn't smile. I was just literally like, just not there. Was I? Just not there.
Often that would happen. Often that would happen where you would just go completely vacant, and you'd just be you were scared. You could tell that you were scared and really, really confused. And that would happen in public. I mean, obviously, our friends back in the UK, there's so many drug addicts, they're incredibly understanding, and we've seen way worse because we're all nuts, and it's true. But you were speaking about obviously when you've grown up there and people, there's a bit more background and it's fine, and the roots are a bit deeper. But you've spoke about when you've been out with friends who are newer friends, and you've had a bit of an episode, and they've just been like, no, and just not wanted anything to do with it, basically.
Yeah, I think my way of handling it over years changed a little bit as well. because I tried to hold it in for that long. Like I could kind of show it a bit with you and your friends because everyone was so understanding and like they were like family instantly. But I think the friends that I've lost since I've been over here in Australia, it's been really hard because I've held it in so long, all these different things that have been triggering me. And when I'm finally hit that switch, no matter how long it takes, sometimes not long at all, it turns into a bit of a brat show, if you will, like kind of like a massive tantrum, like screaming, crying, pulling my hair out on the floor, punching myself in the face, pretty much making it looks like kind of attention seeking, which what it's been told before. I've been told that I've been literally just doing things for attention, which if I wanted attention, I'd just go get my tits out. I wouldn't be punching myself in the face. Something like that. Like it's never been for attention. But I've lost a lot of friends, really, really, really close friends. Friends who said that they'd stick by me, friends who said that they understood, but I don't know how you can really understand that. So I don't blame anybody that it was too much for, and it's been too much for a lot of people. Like I've lost a lot of people. And a lot of the time I think now maybe I could have explained it more, but because I was so just not as calm as I am now, I was still drinking and still doing drugs at the time as well, which didn't help. I'm pretty sober now, apart from the last couple of weekends. But 3 years sober. But at that time, I wasn't controlling what I was taking as well. So that had a big part to play in it, I think. People saw me as the life and soul of the party, as a bit of a comedian, a bit of a dickhead, really, a bit of a clown. So when they saw that really serious side and we tried to have those conversations, it was like, yeah, we're here for you, like talk to us anytime. But when it actually came down to it, they thought I was being just completely selfish. And again, I have to completely understand that because it's not normal behaviour. I've never seen anyone act the way that I do or did in the past and have done really up until the last kind of 5 or 6 months. Maybe a bit of a tangent here as well, but I told you earlier that at the moment it's actually the longest that I've been without being psychiatrically sectioned against my will. So the last time that I was sectioned was in February. I was admitted to the psychiatric unit here in Sydney for a few weeks, and that was while I was pregnant as well. I had my baby in June, so I was quite far along. So it's sorry, I have literally diverted completely, but
that's good.
It's difficult to kind of try and narrow it down and not. There's so much I want to say all at once, and it's
just go for it. Fire it out. It's good because it's such a purge, really, and it is liberating. And and love comes with understanding. And some people can't understand, and they'll never understand because they're possibly in their own degree of mental health issue or spiritual health issue. That they are wrapped up in, that I was wrapped up in with my drug addiction, and that so many people in this world are wrapped up in. There's everybody hides their identity. Everybody does this. Not many people are comfortable with exposing who they really are, what they really like, how they feel, without. This is why we like alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
This is why we like it, because when we do this, it lowers everyone's inhibitions. You can talk, and people don't even listen anyway. They don't even hear you properly anyway. This is
it
why
scares
we like
me that
it.
I don't know if I will find my identity, because at the moment I don't know who I am. In all honesty, I'm desperately trying to seek who I am and what I'm all about and what I want from life and how I'm going to do that. And a lot of the time, I'm completely baffled by myself. I'll get the odd day when I'm like, right, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, and I'll come home from work and I'm really smiling and positive, and I've made dinner and I've made his lunch for the next day, and everything's absolutely perfect. But it just doesn't take a huge amount to hit that realization of what am I doing and who am I and what am I about? Why am I here?
It's totally cool that you're thinking that, though, because most of the world practically everybody thinks that they really know who they are and have a firm grasp of what that is, yet who they are today was definitely different to who they was a week ago, let alone a month, let alone a year, let alone 10 years, and they're constantly changing what they like, what they do, and who they think they are, and I think in their body, and it's all changing, but they haven't realised that they always think they know who they are, yet it's always different. And in 10 years, they're going to be different again. So no one really knows who they are. They're just kind of very... And I think one of the things is people believe that ignorance is bliss, and not... It's one of the... There's a lot of questions out there in the world that we don't want to think about because it's bloody stressful, and we want to believe that we're in control of something and that we know what's going on. And it's really stressful to think that we don't. But I think if we don't answer these questions, or at least seek answers to these things, we can never really transcend this judgment and feelings of lack of self-worth and not being accepted that come with trying to get the approval of other people who don't know who they are either.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a journey, isn't it? Like I don't think I'll ever stop looking and trying to figure myself out and challenging myself. Like I was very torn. I talk myself out of doing this with you all the time because I worry that it's going to be like, oh, me, poor Tina. And I don't want people to have that perception of, again, going back to the attention thing, I think that's really kind of scarred me a while ago. Even a family member said that I used to do things for attention, and it's made me close up that much that I don't really know how much to share anymore. I feel like I've got something to offer. I feel like I've got some experience that, someone might be able to relate to, like we might be able to help each other. I might be able to help someone figure out what's going on with them and really help people that are around the person that's struggling as well. But at the same time, I think, why do people want to know about you? Like you're not special. Your problems are no worse than anyone else's. Everyone's got issues. Like, don't make it the Tina show. Don't make it, don't make it all about you. And that's my constant thing. I think I know that I'm really hard work as a friend, as a partner, as a daughter, as a sister. And that really hurts me because it's the opposite of what I want to be. I want to be easy to be loved because I love people so easily, and I want to be able to help people. And at the time it comes across that I'm this bratty little princess that has these overwhelming tantrums for what people see to be no reason, because I don't explain it. I can't explain it at the time. A lot of the time I don't know why I'm doing it, and it takes a lot of analysing further down the line for me to understand that what really was happening and what was behind it as well.
I know that you haven't even told people 5% of what's going on. Like I know that there's so much more to the picture.
Absolutely,
there's just an unbelievable amount of depth to the suffering, and I honestly think that it's just amazing. And I honestly think you're such a wonderful and nice person. You really are. It's true, and I think anybody would agree with that. And
that's the goal, isn't it? Just want to be a good person. Like I think as long as you've got that, then you've got everything really. But it's hard work to be a good person. We were discussing this earlier as well. Like all the changes that we want to make, it's sacrifice. It's being that honest and that raw with yourself in the first place is really hard. Like I'm the first one to bury my head in the sand about things, but hopefully like more and more involvement with Break the Chain as well. I'd like to think that I'd be able to like face up to those things a bit more and be more honest with myself more than anything. And that's what this is. This is me. This is a really good way for me to analyse myself, because I push it all to the side and just go, right, tomorrow's a new day and everything's going to be fine. But
it's fascinating to tell your story and record it and watch it back again, because you get like an outside perspective on your own story, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that me? Is that my story? It's really interesting, and you get to watch yourself say stupid shit that you wish you hadn't.
Really know how am I going to cram it all in? Like I feel like I don't know anyone else like me. And maybe it's because nobody's talking about it like I haven't been talking about it. But I'd love to know that I'm not on my own here, and that I'm not an absolute psychopath, and that I'm not the only one that's really struggling with who I am and being completely overwhelmed every single day, all day, and just going, right, today you're going to do it. You're going to get through the next hour. You're going to get through the next 2 hours, and you're going to be okay. Like, I'd really like to know that I'm not the only one, because I'm sure anyone else that is feeling this way, of course I'm not the only one, but that's how it feels, right? Like, so
the way that this conversation that we're having just is not giving an accurate representation of what your day to day is really like, is it? Like, you're doing well. You're doing amazingly well. And it's so cool because you actually reached out to me earlier and messaged me, which is unusual. And as I say, it's like last time I spoke to you and we discussed this was over a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, that we said let's do this. And I've spoke to you maybe twice since then. I think, like, hardly at all.
And I wanted to do this. I've been wanting to. I've said for years to myself that I was going to write a book, and I started writing notes here and there. A book for people close to people that are struggling, to be able to help and offer that support and do it in the right way and do it confidently and to not lose your mind yourself in the process, kind of thing. But it's one of those things that, like this project as well, I wanted to be further along in my recovery, to be able to help people more. Like, I didn't want to just come on here and go, oh, these are all my issues, but I don't know how to solve them. What do I do? But at the same time, it's, like I said, nice to know that you're not on your own. And also, like, Carlo reminds me all the time, I have come a long way. I have come a long, long way. Like, when I met him, I think probably I'd have to ask him, but I reckon probably at least 2 or 3 times a week, I would be on the floor screaming at the top of my lungs, pulling my hair out, ripping my clothes off, punching myself in the head, banging my head against things, running away, jumping out of moving cars. And I had no control over my own mind. Like, it was that bad. I actually went for a job interview. I got the job, so I won't say which job it was. But I came out and I didn't think that I'd done very well. And I dropped to my knees in the middle of the city centre in Sydney. I just started screaming. I can't say what I was screaming, but it was very self-deprecating. I was punching myself in the head and I was banging my head against the pavement. I just think people saw this. Like, that was me. And I hadn't even thought about these moments until, like, Carla goes, Jesus, you've come so far. You're doing so well. I'm really nothing like that anymore. Even just in the last year, like, it's amazing how far the recovery's come. And I've got to really credit a lot to Carlo, first of all, for being ridiculously patient, for ridiculously patient.
Well done, Carlo. Well done, Carlo.
And just being encouraging and showing me love when I was pretty much unlovable. So definitely for him, definitely for the fact that we had a baby after getting together 6 months. We planned having a baby after 6 months. That's what crazy people do. We got engaged and got scrubbed up 6 months in. And that obviously is going to change your mind, because I mentioned to you earlier that, you know, I've been, I hate discussing it. I hate the word. I've been suicidal, like, really suicidal. Like I'm done, like I'm out, like I'm calm and I'm happy with it, and I'm waiting for the right time to not upset people. Like, it was all planned, it was all in place.
Can you explain you explained it to me earlier, and I think it's quite important to explain the circumstances and how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was the second abusive relationship that kind of tipped me over the edge, and losing all of those friends because I'd lost my mind through it. Like, when you're psychologically broken down by somebody that, you know, you think you love and you think that you can trust, it chips away at your own mind. They play that many mind games that it turns your mind against yourself. I felt genuinely crazy. Like I didn't trust. I still struggle with trusting my instincts completely. I don't know what's paranoia and what's real sometimes. Back then, I didn't know at all what was paranoia and what was real. The fact that I was smoking an ounce a week of weed as well didn't help my situation at all. But it was the fact that I thought that with my bipolar and depression and stuff that I'd been in that place where I didn't want to be here anymore. But it was actually about last February. So not this February, just gone, the year before. So just over a year, and nearly 2 years, sorry. I was done. Like I called my best friend, and she came over, and it was kind of, that was my last attempt to get myself back on track, because I wasn't leaving the house. I was going to my day job to get by, but I'd literally tunnel vision, smoke loads of weed, go to work, high as a kite, eat some edibles, smoke a couple of joints on my lunch break. If that didn't hit the spot, then I'd just not tell anyone, get up out of my day job, get the train home to my suburb, smash like eight bongs, go back to work again, and then just do the whole thing again, like I wasn't living, kind of thing. And I hit a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I was not leaving the house from when I got home on Friday until having to go to work on a Monday, and dragging myself there, absolutely dragging myself. Yes, I was doing it. I'm seen as being a functioning mental health patient. I wasn't functioning at all, not even the slightest. And I thought about like admitting myself to hospital again, but I just thought, look, I've been there dozens of times. Like, they can't help me. They've already said that they can't help me. They want to put me on these drugs. They want to put me on those drugs. I don't know what's helping. Nothing is. Like, if they don't know what to do with me, was my opinion. If they don't know what to do with me, how the fuck am I meant to know? How am I meant to make myself better if they're like... So I flew... Sorry, my best friend flew over from the UK as sort of a last resort, and it was really just my last hope, I think, because I was on the edge. And she was here, and she's a healer. She's a kinesiologist, Erica. And it was quite striking when, I could see how upset she was, and I felt nothing. Like, I felt completely calm, and she was struggling with it, and seeing me in that place where she knew that I was going, that I was disappearing. And even when she couldn't even do anything for me, it really hit home. We went to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is kind of a once in a lifetime gig, and one of my favourite bands of all time. And I stood there in the audience, and I just felt nothing. I felt numb. Like, my face was just nothing, absolutely nothing. And I remember thinking at that time, I can't even pretend. I can't even pretend to feel like an ounce of anything. There's no spark in me at all. And just felt completely calm with just not being here anymore. And while I was at this gig, I was stood there planning how I was going to do it, when I was going to do it, and I felt completely at ease with it. In fact, I felt a bit happier. I felt a bit calmer, because I thought, I've got a way out. I know what I'm doing now. So I assured her that that I was okay and everything, and she flew back a couple of weeks later. But in my head, I'd already started planning. It's going to really upset her seeing this, actually, because I've never spoken to her about it. I started planning everything. I told some friends over here that I was moving back to the UK. And I started to get a bit happier, just because I knew that I wasn't going to have to deal with how I felt for much longer. But luckily, that girl's a stubborn bitch, Erica. And,
she's amazing.
She's incredible. Even from far away, she saved my life a couple of times over now. So, yeah. When you think that you've been to the lowest point, and when you think that you've been through it all, and you think you've had all these problems, only to at a point later in life for you to realise, God, that was nothing. Like, this is actually how it feels, and to be okay with it and to be ready. It takes a special kind of someone to kind of drag you back from that. So it opened up conversations. So what she did, and this is a really good point to get across on how to be able to help some people in that situation. While she was here, she was a busy little bee, and she made all these arrangements with friends that I've got over here. So she came and met a few different groups of my friends, and she got their contact details. And without me knowing, she was in touch with them all the time, going, I haven't heard from her. Can you get in touch? And then she'd speak to another person. She'd go, will you go and see her? And I think she needs somebody. And I didn't know that it was Erica, like pulling the strings behind it all, accepting no glory from it. You know, she was just doing it literally to help someone else. And she was doing it at all hours of the morning. She had phone calls from me all day, all night, all through my office job, when I'd get there and I'd just literally be crying all day and I couldn't do a thing. I'd call her for the whole day pretty much. So her nighttime in England was spent just with me, like unconsolable, crying down the phone and not able to talk. She'd just listen. And, I said earlier that I've always wanted to write a book or do something to be able to help those people around those ones that are struggling, to be able to help their loved ones. Because I know for a fact that I wouldn't be here without her. And other people, like mainly Erica, but many other people. Like my support network over here has just been fabulous, and my mum and my sister have been incredible as well. But we really need to be working out a way to help those people who don't know what to do. Because you see someone smacking their head against a radiator, what would you do? Like, you just think...
I just did drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's too
I
much.
don't know what to do with it.
One person to take on, and it makes me feel terrible. Like, I say to Carlo a lot, so, well, not a lot anymore, but I used to get really overwhelmed, and I'd say, when I felt myself spiraling, I'd say, we can't be together because I can't do this to somebody. It's not fair. It's not fair to put all of this on you and expect you to carry me and to stay by my side and to pick me up and to constantly, all day, every day, all night, every night, be that person that is just putting someone back together, basically. And I'm very lucky that he's stood by me and that I'm stronger than ever at the moment, and that I'm only going to get better with him by my side. But we really do need to be having conversations with people about how to approach people that are struggling and what's the best way to do that, because I'm no expert on everyone else. I'm not really an expert on myself. But I think the more that we share about it, and the more that those that are suffering as well talk about it, we're going to be able to help each other out. Like, I can't imagine being in that situation that Erica was put in. Like, seeing someone that you love that much fading away and saying literally, I just want to disappear. I just want to disappear. I don't want to be here. I want to be invisible. And meaning more to those words than they probably seem as well. Like, she's incredible. And anyone that is able to stay by the side of somebody who has issues like mine, incredible, absolute heroes, because that takes something else that I don't know if I could. As much as I want to help people and as much as I love helping and I love people, I don't know if I've got that strength.
The funny thing is about that situation is when you see someone else in that situation, it snaps you out of your own shit in a second. You're just like, bang, you are out of your head, and you are just like, it's probably the best you're going to feel because you're just not in your own head. And It's amazing how many more people there are in the world that are actually prepared to do that for people, because I've spoken to a lot.
Mm.
And one point that's so beautiful and I think and forgotten these days is that love and an act of love is prepared to take a great deal of discomfort for the good of others. And it's amazing. And it's amazing to see people make the sacrifices of their own comfort for the good of others and actually experience a profound sense of joy of doing that. And when it's less extreme, it's hard to do that, but it is things that we can all do in our own life more that is just just like a growing feeling of love.
Absolutely.
Another point that you touched on, and through Erica's just profound wisdom, and something else that that I realised as well, is that you have to let people know that you're not okay to get better. Because people can't, if they don't understand or know, don't be surprised that no one's coming around to help.
Absolutely.
If you're on your own, if you tell people, which is really uncomfortable, but that is the route to recovery, isn't it?
It is. It's not always, we both know it's just not that easy though. Like I said before, I did my best to hide it because I was scared of that rejection again. I was scared of nobody knowing what to do with me. And I didn't want them to feel that burden, that like, that desperation of what do I do? How can I help? And when you feel like you are helpless, like I didn't want to put that on anybody, because I really did feel for a lot of the time that I was unhelpable. That's not a word. Like nobody could help me. Nobody could do anything to change my situation, and therefore there's no point in worrying anybody about it. So I'd actually do my best to cover it up. I've hated all this. I've really hated on the whole "Are you okay?" campaign and all of that stuff, because from what I could see when I was in these office jobs was just, you'd get the little post-it notes that said, "Are you okay?" And they've all got their little nice little yellow stationery packs and stuff. And then that's it. You have a nice afternoon tea to raise some awareness or money or whatever. And then that's it for one day a year. Perfect. Like, what's that going to do?
I know. I think it does need to be tackled on an individual level, where individuals take it upon themselves and begin to understand and appreciate that they need to physically, by themselves, take a great deal of care for other people and deeply consider and become aware of what other people are going through. Instead of chasing, and I can speak from experience again because I've literally learnt this through great loss. But when you're too busy chasing your own desires, you do not see what's going on with your friends. And I've got friends that aren't here anymore that I know that I would have known with the knowledge that I have now. And that's come at a great price. And I don't think that it has to. I know it doesn't have to. No. If we can cultivate empathy and compassion sooner.
It just needs that genuine conversation, that genuine want to help somebody get out of that dark place. And yeah, I think looking for those tiny little signs. I'm guilty of just constantly saying sorry, and I want to catch up with people, but I never do. And I think looking for those little signs of somebody that doesn't look after themselves mentally. Those little telltale signs of physically putting your head down. And like for me, I pull my hair out all the time. I'm surrounded by hair in this very moment. Just looking for those little things that aren't quite right, those little quirks, and maybe not just bouldering in with, "Are you all right?" But opening up a conversation where that person is going to feel more comfortable about opening up. Actually, we touched on earlier how I thought I had that with some friends, and that was actually one of the things that sent me spiraling down. So I was doing really well. I was listening to positive affirmations every single day. I was reading some Eckhart Tolle, and I was doing really well. I was getting there. I'd actually written affirmations all over my house in post-its everywhere. I look like a crazy person. Like, you are brave, you are strong, you are good enough, and all of these things. And I'd walk around and I'd repeat them to myself. And I felt like I was getting there. Like I was pushing myself to go out and see friends at the weekends. And then I got let down quite badly by a couple of people. It was actually around my birthday a few years back. And I thought that they were like pretty much my brother and my sister, and a few different people basically. And it made me think, God, you can't talk to anybody. You can't, because they're just going to let you down, and then you're back on your own again, and you've made yourself that vulnerable for no reason, which is worse. Like, because then you just feel really shit about yourself. Then you do feel like a burden. You know, when they've opened that door for you to have the conversation, only for them to be kind of freaked out by your actions and your behaviours, have that slammed back in your face. And like I said before, back to be on square one. Like, my walls go up. I'm not going to talk at all. And I still very, very, very much struggle with opening that kind of conversation now. Find it easier to talk to the people that have seen it, like yourself, like Carlo, like Erica, like my mum, like my sister. But it's just not always that easy. You don't want to worry people. So let's all just be out on the lookout for these little telltale signs that something's just not quite right with somebody, I think.
Sometimes you can tell someone straight and they're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, but they just can't appreciate what the reality of what you're telling them is. And I've had it with my drug addiction, and then they've actually seen it. Probably you're one of those. And when they've seen the reality of what it's actually like, they're just like, holy shit, I can't deal with this. Because it's completely consuming. Like my drug addiction is unreasonable. It is selfish. It's in control. And if you're in my life and I'm a drug addict,
oh, cool, that's so bad.
I'm on hold. I've gone sideways.
So sorry, my phone went.
That's all right. We're practicing authenticity here, aren't we? Yeah. So yeah, just talking about my addiction and how ruling it is. If that was me having a shouting fit and losing it, I'd be doing it. It just happens. That happens to be my foible, doesn't it? That happens, when it goes, and then off we go.
That's right. It is consuming. It is completely consuming. I mean, I touched on before the fact that I'm classed as a functioning mental health patient, and I even I feel like I have to kind of act like I'm functioning to the psychiatrist, to the psychologist, and it's never the case. I can never convey exactly what it's like, because in those moments where I'm sat in the doctor's chair and whatnot, I can only remember a certain amount of things. Like the times when I black out and I'm going completely crazy, like I've blacked out and I've gone completely crazy, and I don't really recall those properly. So it's hard to be able to describe the whole kind of situation to them. But for me, for my day-to-day thing, I struggle with a lot of anxiety. I struggle with a lot of, I don't know what you call it really, but I struggle with just the world around me. I can't eat in public. I can't have anyone eat around me. Like if we eat at home, the TV's right up. We don't tend to sit at the table together a lot of the time. We are getting better at that. I'm getting better at that. But that's a really big thing. I've really struggled to be in public at all around any kind of food. I've constantly got my headphones in because I can't really cope with the atmosphere a lot of the time. So we'll be out to dinner sometimes and I'll just have to go and just keep my head down and have blinkers on and not look, because everything around me is just too much. I constantly pull my hair out. Like my hair is completely thinning at the back. It got better through pregnancy, and then recently again the hair pulling things can't go in. But it's really tiny little symptoms like that just kind of build up and then take over your whole day, that make it hard to leave the house and make it hard to get out of bed. I know a lot of people struggle with that as well. But really just, if I didn't have a baby, I don't know where I'd be right now, to be honest. I've got to go for him, so...
You mentioned that this is the longest period of time when you've not been sectioned. Do you think that having a baby's had a big effect on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember the last time that I had one of these, like one of these outrageous attacks, like these mental breakdowns. I think it probably was when I was pregnant, because I can't let myself get to that point now. I've got to have some control over my brain. I've got to do it for my little boy. And I don't want him to be around it. I don't want him to learn from it. I don't want him affected by it at all. And I want to be around for him. I want to be present. Like, it's never been the issue that I don't want to get better. I do. I just don't know how. But now, more than ever, now that I've got him, failure is just not an option. As much as I really struggle at times, I don't really know how, but just having him in my mind, I've managed to like pull myself back and assess the situation. I mentioned before that I was smoking like an ounce of weed a week. I was spending loads of money. Now I have CBD. So the CBD doesn't have the THC in there. I don't get high. And that really helps me to just chill and analyze. So I'll go and have like a couple of gummies, or I'll smoke some CBD flower. And that seems to be really, really helping just to get myself together, because I haven't got time. Like, being a parent is the most consuming thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Like, it's relentless. It's all these little tiny things, like a nappy here and a vomit there and needs feeding. But it just doesn't stop. It's on a loop. So it's relentless. A lot of people can relate to, I know. And I haven't got time to be crazy. And I haven't got time to dissociate either. I don't want to waste any more of my life. I talk to Carlo all the time about our pasts and our memories, and he tells me all these amazing stories of where he's travelled and what he's done. And my mental health has held me back that much that I can't really remember anything. There isn't really anything that I'd say was a time when I was completely happy, because I've just always been drowning it with drugs, with alcohol, with whatever, with partying, with weed, and not really being in the moment. I've not felt like I've been present for my whole life. That was another diagnosis, was dissociation. So it's kind of like watching yourself on TV permanently. It's like an out-of-body experience, but all the time. Like, I don't feel like a human. I don't feel like I'm having this conversation now. You know what it's like to be present, and I guess what it's not like to be present. And yeah, that's my big battle now, is just making sure I'm here, that I'm enjoying every moment with my baby and with my partner, and that I'm going to enjoy my life from now.
So I had to do that as well with my addiction. My addiction was, you know, my mind didn't. I was way less serious, I think. But you know, like, my mind didn't have that function of disassociation. Oh, I did a bit. I was always staring out the window and daydreaming, and any opportunity to escape, I was into it. Mm-hmm. Whatever other thing I did, but you know, my drug addiction literally was chemically doing that. I was chemically just disassociating. It's exactly what ketamine does. It's what it's literally the job of it. It shuts off the senses, basically, which is like, you know, anxiety comes through the senses, through you know, triggered by some kind of stimuli, like some object of the senses, and you see something and you're like, oof, and then the anxiety comes from the external, from the world outside. So it's like just wanting to turn those off. I found that my process of the process of recovery has also been through, obviously I don't have a baby, but through finding good to do outside of myself and bringing purpose to my life and meaning. And I'm very much busy and engaged as well. Often I'm very busy. Yeah. You know, but I try not to get attached to that busyness, and accept that things change and that I can't control anything. But I just do my best. And that's been, like, in a nutshell, one of the biggest parts of my recovery. You all right?
Sorry, I'm too popular. Like, I should have like cancelled all my notifications. This is the problem with doing it on your phone, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have set, knowing that you are, you've been given a certain body and mind and level of functionality that's out of your control? Do you feel like you've adjusted your expectations of life, what you are capable of doing, and how you and how you try to be in the world to deal with your psychology?
Well, first of all, like, I wouldn't change the way that I am. I wouldn't change any aspect of my life whatsoever. Like, I wouldn't change all of these issues that I have. I'd want to be able to deal with them a lot sooner and enjoy my life a lot quicker. But I do feel that having these feelings and having these emotions and these complications in my mind, I really feel like it helps me be a better person. Like, it helps me be a kinder person. It challenges me to push through it. Like, I could have given up many times, but it more propels me to move forward and to be better, and to really just not see things in black and white. Like, I like to think that I can kind of pick up on what other people are feeling a little bit, and I can hopefully know a bit more of the right thing to say. Obviously, everyone's different, as we keep saying, so it's never easy to really make that conversation and figure someone out and, like, approach the matter with them. But I do feel like it makes me more sensitive to those kind of warning signs, those little red flags that are going on in people's minds that they're putting out there. And really just to be able to understand everything a bit more and have more patience with that. I've made my own question there. I made my own answer to a different question.
I don't even remember what was going on with that question. I don't. Yeah, I don't think that was. I don't think that. I think that was a different answer to. It was a nice answer though, and it was a good point. What I was talking about with setting more realistic expectations was, for example, not going to certain social events, not for example, I wouldn't go down to the pub anymore, and I won't be going to a rave. I don't really like going into a busy city.
Yeah,
I get overwhelmed. I know I do. I've accepted it. I can go into the city, but I generally don't. I generally seek more peaceful environments. I seek people who are in recovery from drugs, which is something we spoke about earlier, and I'm sure, and I know because I do speak to people who have pages dedicated to dealing with bipolar, and Instagram is, for all its faults, is one of the most wonderful places where you can go and type in drug addiction or recovery or sobriety or bipolar or PTSD and find all these wonderful accounts of people who are dedicated to improving that situation. Same on YouTube. And you can do that, and I bet that there's some really wonderful, and I bet the 12-step recovery programs for dealing with these things, and I can't speak for anybody with PTSD or bipolar, but I can from a point of view of a drug addict, and I think one of the amazing things that the 12-step program does is it makes you pull this false identity off, this mask. It makes you take it off, because when you go into these environments, it is essential that step one is that you be completely honest and vulnerable and admit you've got a problem, and you're prepared to put yourself in front of each other. And this container, this environment, everybody in this environment is doing the same thing, and it's so accepting and feeling of safety, which quite possibly we've not experienced in our entire life. And hearing other people speaking, and one of the things with 12-step recovery is that you get a sponsor. So you have, obviously you have your program, the 12 steps, and then you have a sponsor, and you also have the group. But the sponsors don't teach from as an expert. They are all teaching from experience. So they use their own experiences to teach you. Might have had more time in recovery, so they help you, but also them helping you keeps them in reality check with how bad it actually was in the beginning, and it's just this whole support system created. And I really believe that that's essential for recovery from anything if you actually want to have some sort of freedom and quality of life again. So I think that would be something that's certainly worth looking into, and then you naturally get that support system that of people, and you get the opportunity to keep speaking honestly as well.
I think that would be a great thing to be offered to people that aren't just struggling with addiction, that are struggling with mental health. Like, for me, I feel like I'm addicted to self-sabotage. Like, I want some help with that. That is an addiction for me. So I think it would be really good to actually have that put into place, not just for people with actual physical addictions, but for people that are struggling mentally as well, because there aren't that many programs to access just for being the way that I am. I mean, through having that domestic violent relationship and going through the courts and getting my restraining orders and things like that in place, and having him found guilty and things, all of that actually set me up to go and do a DBT course, which I spoke to you about earlier. I still can't pronounce it. It's like dialectical behavioural therapy or something. It's like a different step to the CBT. And that's really the only thing that I was able to access. It didn't really fit with me at the time. Like, my mind and my thoughts were too erratic or too all over the place. The particular class, or whatever you call it, it was 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. So I would have special permission from my work every week to just pop off for an hour. And I'd literally run and get the train there, run and get the train back, not have any lunch, and just be like all over the place. It wasn't going to sink in that environment, really. And that's the only thing that I've been able to access. There need to be more options for how to treat people with this.
One thing I know for a fact is that if you want to get better from anything, you need a process and a practice that is daily, with accountability, that you do for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
you need to make it part of your life, and you need to make big changes in what you expect of yourself, knowing what you can and can't control, and all these types of things. And if you do practice these things daily, you can get better. You can make a considerable amount of improvement, especially in knowing what's in your control, because it gives you something you can do towards improving.
I think that a lot of the frustration with myself, is just the fact that I want to get better. Like, I just don't know how to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really want to, but I don't know how to access the help. I don't know how to get this, like, any kind of courses or any kind of help with it. I wouldn't know where to start, and I still don't. And I've felt like this for years. I've had access to mental health assistance in both the UK and in Australia now, and it kind of feels like they just don't know what to do with me. I get a nice little magnet number to stick on my fridge with a helpline to call if I'm going to kill myself, which is great, but I don't really want it to get to that point where I'm at my lowest ebb and I've got to call a stranger and tell them my life story. Like, I need something before that, and it gets pretty desperate before you even hit that level. So I just don't know. I don't know what it is, and how we really attack it, and how we really help the people that need to be helped.
I laughed then, and there was a great deal of value to have that number kicking about, but it's not really a great solution, is it? It's probably seemed like it possibly an inappropriate time to laugh at something, but it just seemed a bit like that's probably not going to cut it, is it?
Not really. No, that's it.
I do think there's a great deal of value for anyone if they can, obviously if you can manage it, because obviously some people can't manage to make that step, because it is scary. It is a scary step, but to just be like, all right, I'm just going to give something new a try. I've tried loads of stuff. I need to try something new now. And putting yourself in an environment such as a recovery environment, which I don't think that it necessarily matters if you have a drug addiction. If you go to an addiction meeting, who is not addicted to who is not on some level addicted to not telling the truth and showing their true identity in fear that it's gonna go badly. Everybody does that.
Absolutely.
We're all totally terrified. We're terrified of being ourselves. We're terrified of being honest in all the time. We think we'll be judged. We think that we won't that things won't go the way that we want them to, and all these other things, which in reality, that whole category of thing is in the category of I can't control this.
Mm-hmm.
And you spend all your time worrying about that and being anxious about that, and you waste all of your life's energy on things you can't control, instead of actually doing the things that you can and reclaiming all that energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much energy to be saved by not worrying about shit that you don't know what's going to happen. Because that is addictive, isn't it? That is like the self-sabotage you was talking about. Yeah.
I can't believe I just really can't believe how far you've come, like from knowing how you were and to the way that you talk now, and to how open you are about how you're feeling, because you were the complete opposite. You wouldn't talk about how you're feeling at all. I think you're probably quite about how you're feeling, and you're just going straight to the drugs to mask how you're feeling as well. But it's amazing. It's amazing to hear you speak like you do, and to be really trying to help other people and learn from them and help each other, because that's exactly what it's all about, right? It's no one's got the answer, but if we can try and just dip into each other's kind of knowledge pools.
No one giving you an answer is going to do anything.
Nah, it's got to be what's right for you. It's got to fit. It's got to be you doing it in your head.
Well, someone can give you the answer, and it can be the answer, but it's like it comes down to practical and repetitive application in your own life, and then being able to actually apply that wisely, which is the practical application of knowledge, rather than just like you can know something. That doesn't really do anything. But until you can do it and act and do it in proper knowledge, and then it and you know what have I done differently? Because even after I was practically off drugs for 5 years, and even the whole time I was way more anxious than I've ever been in the UK sober. What happened was I follow a process that has guidelines, and every morning I do a small amount of exercise and I meditate every morning, and then I follow strict guidelines that basically don't ever allow me to put myself or put my desires before anybody else's needs. And that's just an absolute must. If I start putting my desires before other people's needs, shit goes really bad really fast, because that puts me in this place. This is where I am. And desires are never, ever, they never end. There's no end to a desire. There's always the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and you're never satisfied. And then other people are neglected. I'm describing my drug addiction. Neglecting everybody else to chase something that can never satisfy me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's like you said, it's not just drug addiction. It kind of that fits the bill for a few different things, like mental health wise.
I say this with the greatest amount of compassion possible. I haven't invented this. This is a spiritual truth. Every single mental health problem, including my drug addiction, is self-centered by nature, in the fact that you end up locked inside your own head, and it becomes impossible, even if you would like to see beyond your own mind, because you're in such a bad place and it's so painful, and it's so frustrating, and I sincerely believe that attempting, and it's got to come from it doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the heart, from within your own heart. You've got to want to consider others and really try and sit, and that's painful, and that's emotional, and that emotional work is the hardest work to do, because that's what we want to run away from. And there has to be an acceptance that we're going to have to walk through some emotional discomfort. But saying that, it's like for me, my highest emotional discomfort might have been like, right, I just need to stop doing drugs now and just sit there and face it like I'm going to war with that. No, I didn't quit the drugs. I couldn't quit the drugs. I ran away, and even when I had no option of doing drugs, it was fucking torture, because that was all I could do at the time. I did what I could do because I couldn't quit the drugs. And I always find that there's always an option where you can start practicing that muscle and training that emotional muscle, and not avoiding every single uncomfortable situation all the time.
Yeah,
because that's a world of anxiety.
Absolutely,
You can't
it's no way
hide.
to live. You can't live like that. You can't just avoid everything that's going to potentially trigger you.
I wrote something down. I'll try and remember what it was because it's actually like such an important point.
I gave up on my note page.
I can't see it off the top of my head, but comfort and convenience that is and false dreams that are promoted in this world are creating just the highest levels of anger and frustration and feelings of powerlessness and self-centeredness and all these things, because we have these high expectations of everything being fast and easy, comfortable. Because I just feel like we've been bred like zoo animals these days, and whilst being told that everything's perfect, and then when they let you out into the real world, it's like, whoa, the jungle.
No, absolutely.
Where's Cinderella? Yeah. And it's just like, tiger.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? When you go up and when you're younger and you feel like, oh, adults know everything, parents know everything, and you get to be a bit more grown up and you're like, shit, everyone is literally just like muddling their way through and making it up as they go along as well. And I do think that it's not a healthy place to live our world at the moment. I do feel like all of these being pulled in all of these different directions is just not what we were built for. It's not what we were made for. And it's really affecting a huge amount of people. I think it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And I just think recognizing that is going to be the first step for anybody as well. Like things like when you don't realize how much time you spend scrolling through Facebook and things like that, that can very easily just take over your life. And what kind of a life is that? Like, I want to be in the moment. I want to be present. I want to be going outside the house and not just being completely distracted by something and then an hour later going, right, I've done nothing with my time. It's just not healthy. And it
makes me feel sick when I look at my screen time. I just sit at home, just lounging around, being part of exactly what I was talking about there, someone who chooses comfort. But I try to, whilst I enjoy the comfort that I have, I try not to be attached to it and accept that the one thing that I can rely on in this world is change. You know, and change is coming constantly at all times. Nothing lasts forever in this world. So just getting used to that, and as we spoke about earlier, instead. So I'll try this point that I made earlier. What did I say? I think it was, how much time have you spent doing things in the world up to this point in your life? And bearing in mind, you feel like you're always busy and everything you're doing is so important. How much value does what you've done up to this point in your life really have? And then I used the example of going to the gym to get this really like amazing buff toned body, and you spent 1,000 hours in the gym or more over the past 3 years. You're so proud of this body. You stop going, or you have an injury, or something happens. 1 month later, it's gone. What was the value? You know?
Yeah, you can easily
what was the value, and what are you up to? What are you spending your time doing? And I think, the more that we focus on doing our best in every moment, instead of wasting so much time focusing on some outcome, which can end up leading us to so much suffering and disappointment, because these outcomes, they don't satisfy, do they? And they don't last.
It's not long term, basically. It's you either got to continue to work on yourself. I can hear my baby and it's really distracting me. Poor little thing's struggling to get to sleep. You either keep working on it and keep building yourself up in that respect, or you're going to fail, and you're going to fail often. These little short-term goals, I guess with the whole fitness thing, it's probably like maybe not a realistic goal, of something that you can continually do. So it just needs to be modified in something that's going to be more doable and go the distance kind of thing.
Well, I think being fit's really important, but I think thinking that having this outcome is going to make you happy is bollocks.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to do it for the right reasons. If you're doing it to look good, in a sense, yeah, that's fine, but I think there needs to be more to it than that. Yeah. Definitely.
It's been absolutely wonderful to have this conversation, and yeah, it really has been amazing to reflect upon these, and I feel like I've been down memory lane a little bit, and it's interesting and to see how far we've both come, really.
Absolutely. And just, like, who would have thought?
Yeah, because when we was together, I guess I always had like a bit of a hero syndrome where I always wanted to be like the saviour and being a good person. And in my head, I felt like I was, but in reality, I was using copious amount of drugs to kind of deal with it, and probably making you worse as well. And it was this contribution of like both of our mental health problems, which I didn't probably even accept that I had at the time. My addiction was just like built in. I didn't even see it like it was a problem in a way. But God, it got out of control, didn't it? Two wrongs did not make a right.
Absolutely. There was a recipe for disaster, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't regret it though. It was and I'm so grateful for the insight. It's so valuable now.
Absolutely.
And what you're sharing and have shared today, because you were saying you didn't know whether it would be valuable, and you didn't want it to be a Tina show, and you said like I want to help people, but I just can't help people. But this will.
Okay.
And I like seriously, because I haven't spoke about any of this stuff yet. And It's so important, and fortunately you've got it all, so someone can it's kind of covered all the topics in one.
Hopefully someone can relate to a few different bits anyway.
Yeah. One last point I'll make is I hope everybody realises that if you message Tina, that's really difficult for her. Because I imagine that people will want, and I've been through this process with quite a lot of people, and people naturally want to reach out and say that was wonderful.
Yeah. That's just don't be surprised if all you get is like a little heart reaction, which is about what I manage most of the time. Like I always say to people when I message other people, I always make sure I put at the bottom, like, just don't worry about replying. Don't feel rushed. Like, reply if you want to, or don't reply, or reply in your own time. But I never want to have anyone else feel that pressure, because I know what it feels like to, people with the best intentions don't realise that a lot of people are overwhelmed, and maybe I don't realise that a lot of people are quite overwhelmed with it as well. So yeah, a little heart react. Maybe we should all just get a little bit more used to just keeping it short and sweet for each other, and not stressing each other out, but just knowing that there's people there that appreciate you and want to help, and that kind of thing.
Amazing, Tina. Thank you so much for coming on today.